Aloha and thanks for being with us this afternoon, everyone. Dylan and Ashley here. The Navy is continuing their work to repair multiple broken water mains that are impacting thousands of families here on Oahu.
Our Mahealani Richardson joins us today to break it all down. Mahealani, thank you so much for joining us today. This is still a very active and ongoing situation. There was a news conference yesterday. Can you recap some of what we learned?
Well, you're right, Dylan. This is a very dynamic situation. Yesterday, there was an unexpected fourth water main break in the Pearl City Peninsula area, and we got there basically just an hour after it happened. It happened about 10 o'clock in the morning, and when we got there, there was no Navy personnel. You could see the water just boiling over, gushing over, and going into that field area, and it appeared to surround three different homes near Lehua Avenue, and the water went up the walkway. That resident there says it went into her driveway, and it also was into her patio area. Now, the interesting thing about that flooding is late last night, the base commander of Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Captain Mark Sohaney, said last night on Facebook during his update that they were dealing with this fourth water main break, and he said, quote, that there was no flooding at Pearl City Peninsula. So we're going to try to ask him some questions today on what his definition of flooding is, because we just got off the phone with Vanessa Washington, who you saw in that video there, and she is very upset. She says that there is no one who's helping them out. They had to use their own sandbags. There was no firefighters, no first responders who came to that flooding, but there were some personnel from Navy Region Hawaii who did respond to that flooding, but at this point, they are very frustrated about that situation.
Yeah, Mahea, and we also understand that the boil water advisory is still in effect. Can you tell us a little bit about that, especially with this fourth water main? How big of an issue is this still ongoing?
Well, the no boil advisory was impacting 93,000 water users around the Navy's water line, and this includes Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam and also military housing areas surrounding Pearl Harbor. But late last night, the Army put out a message that it had done testing and that the boil water advisory for Army areas like at Alea Manu Military Reservation and at Red Hill is no longer in effect, and the Department of Health is aware of this. It's not regulating this particular situation, but the Department of Health says the reason why the Army lifted its boil advisory is because it has a separate filtration system. It has been disinfecting the water, which includes chlorinating the water, which is pretty standard practice. But for those Army areas, they don't have to boil the water anymore. But for the other areas, the bulk of the other areas, I don't have a specific number, but that's basically Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam and all other Navy housing areas. They still need to boil their water, and that yesterday was basically for a week, 7 to 10 days.
So it sounds like there's some good news coming out of this as the crews are making progress. What's the timeline for this? We also understand that repairs could take quite a while. What do you know so far on that?
Well, Dylan, as you're seeing in this video, this is the first water main break along Kamehameha Avenue. It's near the Waiau plant, the Hiko power plant. It's along that bike path there along the shoreline at Pearl Harbor. And this was a huge water main break that happened on Friday. A huge hole there that crews are still needing to repair. And the interesting thing is the base commander there at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam almost seemed to predict that these other water main breaks could happen, because on Friday he said that because they had to isolate that big water main break, that could put pressure in other areas and potentially expose potential weaknesses along the system. And there you had other water main breaks, and there was also another another random water main break caused by a car crash, which was a completely separate situation. So I know it's a lot to keep track of, Dylan, but 4 water main breaks, 3 of them definitely related, and it just seems to be a series of failures along this Navy water line.
It's kind of sounding like a little bit of a domino effect here, one thing after the other. And I'm sure that's wearing heavy on the residents here. Of course, they are just dealing also with the Red Hill fuel. What is the residents' reaction to this? What is some of the feedback you've been hearing from people impacted by this?
Well, you know, as you recall, Dylan, there were the Red Hill fuel leaks from last year, and this all happened around Thanksgiving. And so many of the residents who were there in military housing are still there. And so this is another crisis that they're having to deal with. And many of them said that this feels like deja vu, and that this is bringing up the trauma of dealing with the situation all over again. And for many of these residents, at least the ones that are vocal and that the ones that we're talking to, many of them just don't trust the water. In fact, we spoke to a resident at Alia Manu Military Reservation, Lohi Destajo, and there's her 2-year-old boy, Glenn, there. She's actually bathing him in a mobile dog van. So the owner of this dog spa, her name is Izzy Cochran, and she has Izzy's Paw Spa. She has a business, and because of this situation, she was basically feeling sorry for people who have no options to bathe their children. You know, the military has said you can take a shower, but don't drink the water. Well, you know, if you're bathing a baby, they obviously could drink the water. And so this dog spa was going around saying, hey, we're offering free baths in the dog spa, and several parents took them up on that offer.
That's such an image to see, that children have to bathe in a dog spa. Mahea, we also know that the child care development centers, are also impacted. What's the latest status on those?
Yeah, child development centers are basically the military's version of child care centers or preschools. And so obviously this is a really important service. Those child development centers, there's 12 of them. Well, 11 of them are currently shut down. And this services 5,000 families. And so what the base commander said late yesterday is that he's going to try to get one up and running tomorrow for critical personnel. So there's one child development center in Wahiawa that's not along the Navy water line. That's still open. But that child development center that they're trying to get up and running will be for critical personnel only. So on Friday, the base commander had said that the only people that they want on base right now are those who are critical to the mission. You know, the way I interpret that in civilian language is basically essential versus non-essential workers. So those workers who are essential to the operations of the base are still needing to report to work, and they're finding out those orders from their higher ups. But they're really trying to reduce the number of people on base at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam because they're asking people to conserve water. I mean, the people have either low water pressure, they do have water, but they are being asked to boil that water, not because, according to the commander, of any confirmed contamination, but because as they're dealing with this, with the construction and the reconstruction, they're really concerned about potential bacteria and dirt in the water system. And that's why they, according to them, they're issuing this boil water advisory for now the Navy areas as a precaution.
Got it. Mahealani, just a few more questions for you. The obvious big question here is, how does all of this impact the Red Hill defueling plan?
Well, Dylan, this is a major impact to the Red Hill defueling plan. As you recall, on Monday, the Joint Task Force, which is a task force, includes the Navy and other and regulatory agencies. They were supposed to start unpacking the lines. That's removing fuel from the Red Hill fuel lines from Red Hill all the way down to Pearl Harbor. And that's about 2 miles of lines. It's about 1 million gallons of fuel in those lines. And this was supposed to start the process under the Department of Health to start defueling Red Hill. Once those lines were unpacked, then they could begin the full renovation or repairs that Red Hill needed so that the full defueling could begin of more than 100 million gallons of fuel. But because there is no access to water for these large projects, The military has been changing its verbiage or changing its wording on when they can even begin this. So on Friday, they said we're going to have to postpone it to perhaps early this week. And just yesterday, they had now no timeline for when this beginning of the defueling could even begin. And for people like Oahu Water Protectors, for the State Department of Health, for Board of Water Supply, they are all concerned because all of this fuel, 100 million gallons of fuel, sits above 100 feet above Oahu's aquifer. And as you know, Dylan, that was the problem to begin with, these fuel leaks that drained fuel into the water system. But I did want to say that the base commander there insists there is no fuel in the water and that they are issuing this boil water advisory as a precaution because of concerns about bacteria, which can be a problem for people if they drink it, and concerns about soil in the water.
Got it. Mahea, last question for you right now. There is a press conference happening at 12:30 this afternoon. What do you expect to hear from Navy officials?
Well, we're going to ask them again, give us a timeline. And it's something that we're not just expecting. It's the families who are inconvenienced. This is a major disruption to their lives. When can they start just drinking the tap water again without boiling that water? So we're going to press the military on a timeline. How soon can you fix these repairs? In the past, they've said that these repairs are very complicated. This is a very big system. The base commander seems to repeating the words, we're going to be moving at the speed of safety. He keeps saying that over and over again. In fact, last night he said, we wish we could move at the speed of lightning, but he just can't say that right now. So at this point, it seems that the base commander has been just repeating himself throughout this latest crisis. But again, we want to know, what is the timeline for repairs? When can residents have their water restored? When can these child development centers be back up and running? And there you're seeing some of these areas like at the Navy Exchange. You may recall that they are handing out water there. The Navy Exchange is open, but the food court areas, those are closed, obviously, because they can't make any food. And so this water distribution is continuing.
Mahea Richardson, thank you so much for joining us here on This Is Now. And again, that news conference with the Navy officials will be happening around 12:30, and we will be streaming that live on your Hawaii News Now digital platforms.
New at noon on the Big Island, the Charles Sparky Kawamoto Swim Stadium is closed today after county lifeguards found a body at the bottom of the pool this morning. Mayor Mitch Roth says police and firefighters were sent to the scene and no foul play is suspected. An investigation is ongoing and county officials will alert the public when the pool is reopened.
Honolulu's former chief building inspector, Wayne Inouye, has pleaded guilty to 7 charges tied to the bribery scandal at the Department of Planning and Permitting. Prosecutors say he accepted more than $100,000 in exchange for speeding up permits. Inouye is the 5th person to plead guilty in the case. He could face decades in prison when he's sentenced in March.
Outgoing Congressman Kai Kahele could face an ethics probe in his final weeks in office. The House Ethics Committee is giving itself until the end of November to decide whether to take action on allegations that Kahele violated conflict of interest rules. This was when he co-sponsored 4 bills that affected the airline industry while working as a Hawaiian Airlines pilot. The Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust filed the initial complaint back in April.
If they're moving it forward, there is, in their estimation, there is some grounds to there's some grounds to say that there's been an ethical violation. It just depends on the severity of that.
Kahele lost his bid for governor this year, and his term in Congress is up on January 3rd. Both his office and Hawaiian Airlines did not respond to our requests for comment. Russia is showing no signs of slowing its recent barrage of attacks on civilian targets in Ukraine, now taking aim at the nation's power and water supplies ahead of brutal winter weather. Local officials say Russian missiles hit 2 power plants in Kyiv, killing at least 2 people, and now more than 50,000 residents are without electricity. Tuesday's strikes follow a barrage of drone attacks on civilian targets in numerous Ukrainian cities, some that had been relatively calm for months. Some promising news, though. Russia and Ukraine completed a prisoner swap with 108 Ukrainian women, mostly soldiers, who are now free.
With the upcoming midterm elections, the topic of abortion has galvanized voters across the country. But whether or not the issue is a determining factor in which party controls Congress remains to be seen. Natalie Brand has more from Capitol Hill.
3 weeks before Election Day, President Biden redoubled efforts to rally Democratic voters around the issue of abortion rights.
If you care about the right to choose, then you got to vote.
Speaking at a Democratic National Committee event, the president says if Democrats hold Congress, the first bill he will send to Capitol Hill is one to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land.
When Congress passes it, I'll sign it in January, 50 years after Roe was first decided the law of the land.
Getting such a bill to his desk would require a 60-seat majority or changing filibuster rules. But the latest CBS News polling estimates the Senate is still a toss-up. Abortion has become a big focus on the campaign trail in the nation's most competitive races, including the one for Ohio's open Senate seat.
If the Republicans control the House and the Senate, we won't be able to codify Roe v. Wade, which I think is the smart move us away from chaos and back to some stability. So I will spend all my time trying to fight a national abortion ban.
The Lindsey Graham bill protects babies who are 4 weeks and older, fully formed babies who can feel pain, and it provides reasonable exceptions. If you can't support legislation like that, you are making the United States the most barbaric, pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world.
Advocates on both sides of the issue are pouring time and money into outreach to swing voters, but many say it's not the only issue on their mind.
I can't vote on one issue. I'm not a one-issue voter.
CBS News polling shows among likely voters, abortion trails other issues such as the economy and inflation. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
We're fast approaching the holiday season, and that means retailers are looking for more workers. More than 500,000 Americans typically look for extra work this time of year, but as Nancy Chen tells us, inflation is making this holiday buying and hiring season unusual.
It's already the most wonderful time of year. That is, to find work for the holidays.
We're finding that people want some extra money, especially during the holiday season.
After struggling to fill shifts the past 2 years, Jason Mabel, who heads East Coast operations for clothing retailer Splendid, kicked off holiday hiring earlier than ever in September.
This is the time where maybe a teacher might have off during a few weeks during the holiday season, and they want to come in and pick up some shifts.
And with holiday costs expected to increase this year by 6%, people are looking for ways to keep up.
Given inflation and a looming possible recession, are there more people who are coming off the sidelines to seek those seasonal jobs?
It's definitely a driver.
Julia Pollack is the chief economist for ZipRecruiter and says even as the labor market begins to cool, it's still sizzling. Companies are coming out with big incentives, including higher wages. Amazon just announced sign-on bonuses going up to $3,000, with potential opportunities for full-time jobs.
This is a good time to be a job seeker.
This is the best job seekers market of all time. Employers are still having to make very attractive offers, and job seekers are still in the driver's seat.
But major retailers are divided on how they're hiring. While Amazon and Target are aiming for roughly the same holiday hires as 2021, Walmart, the nation's largest retailer, announced it's bringing on only about a quarter of last year's figure. Macy's is also pulling back, taking on about half as many seasonal workers as last year.
Industry analysts say if you're looking for a seasonal job, now is the time, since it'll look a lot different even a month from now. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
All right, time to check on weather. Let's take you live now to San Francisco, where the temperature there is 73 degrees. On our weather front here at home, Guy has the day off, so let's send it over to Billy for a check on our forecast.
real quickly here, look at this. There's no winds right now. Kailua Kona, Lanai City, Kahului, Kaunakakai, Wahiawa, all the way up on the island chain. There's only a select few spots that have actual winds. And that's what we're going to have pretty much all day today. Light and variable winds, 5 to 15 miles per hour. But you can see a lot of spaces here, they just don't have any wind. And it's just going to be that way. Lots of sunshine, though, today, just like what you see right there. Here's the forecast for you. Well, today is nice. Tomorrow, the rains will come with the frontal system that's going to come through the islands, and that's going to bring us rain Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's not going to be widespread. It's going to be spotty showers, but they could be heavy at times. And then by the time we get to Saturday into Sunday, it'll start to clear, and the trade winds will return.
A rare plant once thought to be extinct in the wild has turned up in a volcanic crater on Hawaii Island. Now 3 organizations are working to grow more of them. A small population of Delacia argutidentata was found on Kamehameha School's land. A member of the 3 Mountain Alliance collected seeds back in 2021.
And I wasn't really aware of what I had found either. I was concerned about leaving the seeds behind, so I collected those. And then as soon as I got back into service later that day, I sent the photos to our program administrator, Joan Yoshioka, who is a rare plant nerd aficionado. She was able to help with the identification of it.
As we're out planting these and seeing the success, it just, my vision is I want to see what they saw in the early 1900s. Like someday I would like us to be able to stand on the edge of a crater and look down into it and see a healthy koa forest with the little round heads of all of these Delicia poking up through that canopy again. And what an amazing vision that is.
The concert announcement on Sunrise today. Earth, Wind, and Fire is coming to Honolulu. They'll be performing at the Blaisdell on Saturday, December 10th. Now, tickets go on sale for Hawaii residents this Saturday at 10 a.m. And you could win a pair of front row tickets plus a stay at the Kahala Hotel and Resort. That includes breakfast at the Plumeria Beach House and transportation to and from the concert. Just head over to hawaiinewsnow.com to enter.
What a great prize over there.
Oh, yeah.
We also want to take you guys to outer space. Take a look at this now. An amazing sight. It was caught on camera. It's one of the brightest explosions in space ever recorded, and it was caught on ground-based telescopes on October 9th. What you're looking at, according to NASA, is a gamma ray burst.
Wow.
One of the most powerful class of explosions in the universe. Scientists believe it happens when a massive star, about 2.4 billion light years away, collapses into a supernova, and that's what you get there. The star was likely much larger than our own sun, and scientists suspect this might not happen for many more decades.
Very cool.
What a pretty sight out there.
Yeah, so time for some good news. An Oahu math and science educator has a new title. Kalani High teacher Michael Ida was named this year's Hawaii Teacher of the Year. Now, Ida, who teaches math and computer science, got the state's top teaching award at a ceremony yesterday. You can see it right here. He just found out the news. And he's been with the math department at Kalani for nearly 3 decades and helped launch the computer science program after seeing the robotics team struggling to write codes. Now, he is described by peers as a lifelong learner who is committed to serving the needs and interests of students. He dedicated his win to those who have supported him along the years. Now, he will represent Hawaii in the running for National Teacher of the Year.
That is so amazing. And we got to give a quick shout out to all the other nominees because, you know, like he said in his speech, he was so grateful, but he shares the win with everyone who has helped him along the way. And there are so many amazing educators. You see some of the fellow nominees right there. To all the teachers out there, we want to say a big mahalo nui for all that you folks do day in and day out.
Oh, yeah. We love our teachers.
Yes.
It's so funny how you can remember their names, like going all the way back to kindergarten.
We definitely have some of our favorites.
Impact on you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta alongside Ashley Nagaoka. Have a great afternoon. Aloha.
Aloha.